Andrew Koss, thank you very much for talking with MolksTVTalk.
No worries, Molksy.
Kossy, you've been working with Nine Brisbane for a while now. Mm-hmm. How did you get your break into getting your head on the telly?
Well, I did a journalism degree at QUT. Started working part-time at ABC Online here in Brisbane when the studios were still over at Milton. When I was at uni, in my last week of uni, basically, I went up the coast to win a Maroochydore and did an internship. And it just so happened that the sports journal at the time there had resigned, and they offered me a position up there. So I took that as the sports editor up there. Always had a passion for sport, so that was a good break into the industry. And spent about 18 months up there at Win, and then moved to Extra here in Brisbane. Spent about a year at Extra. Just before Extra got the can, unfortunately, I made the move over to ACA, and I've been there for 2 years until about 3 weeks ago when I resigned.
So you've seen a big chunk of the Nine experience, working at a regional affiliate, getting involved with local television. You were working on camera or just producing for Extra?
No, working on camera. So
My memory's not that good.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So I did. At Win, obviously, you get a taste of everything. I did sport, news, producing, cheaper staffing, everything, because there's obviously only 5 journos in the newsroom, and you're doing a half-an-hour bulletin every day. So I got a taste of everything there. Came to Extra, where it was great fun. Awesome team at Extra, and nice, down-to-earth stories that had Extra was a very popular show, had a very committed audience. So yeah, came straight into that as an on-air, reporter. And then made the switch to ACA as a producer reporter. Yep. So at ACA, a fair bit of behind-the-scenes work and also a bit of on-air work as well.
Just to dwell on the Extra thing for a bit, it was good local television, good content, and you're right, it was telling a lot of local stories that sadly we don't get a lot of now.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was definitely a market for it in Brisbane because you saw the ratings from Extra. So, I see some of that content now going across to both the news and ACA, some of that missing content that was there in Extra. So there's still a market for it, I think. That was obviously a decision that Nine made to sort of nationalise news and current affairs. And, sad for Brisbane because, we were quite popular here. But I guess the station moves on in a different direction, and it really hasn't looked back because the decision was made, but it's the news has been rating well lately. Yep. So it hasn't been a blip in the radar, so to speak. I wouldn't imagine. There's
still calls to get something like Extra back at 5:30. I mean, it would be a big call considering that Hot Seat is actually doing pretty well as a lead into the news.
Yeah, I think it would be. It's almost probably a bad decision to go back, I would think, because we can always dwell on it and go, it was a great show, everyone loved it, but when you try to recreate it again, it might not work the same again, and it was obviously dropped for a reason, and then to go back and try it again, I'm just not sure if that'd work, but I think there's still definitely a market for it. But whether another network chooses to pick up something like that, they might have a crack at it.
It's obviously a cost centre. It's going to be an expensive issue to run a bureau locally where you've got people attached to it that are relatively speaking focused on producing that half-hour show 5 days a week. So while there are cost savings to be made and nationalising things and having a larger pool of resource to play into that, it is, it's an interesting time for media full stop where network is beneficial, network is cost effective, but we definitely want to still have those local hooks, and I think you're right, that kind of stuff is playing into news and current affairs now where it didn't happen before. Your time with ACA, both on air and behind the camera, has been, it's been a good one and a really good time to be involved. Current affairs is still continuing to shape itself. It's a long time since with the 80s and 90s where it was big personality driven. You had Hinch running it, you had Ray Martin running it, and that's with no offence to Tracy Grimshaw and to Matt White. They're still personalities, no question. It's interesting that ACA are more leaning on Tracy as a journalist as opposed to a personality. What do you think? Is that a definitive strategy? Or
yeah, well, I think, I mean, Tracy's one of the best journos in the country. We've seen her interviews; they rate amazingly. She's a great interviewer. So I think that's what ACA has over Today Tonight. I mean, Matt's come from, Matt's known as more of a sporting personality in the past, I guess, before he came to prominence on TT. So that's where ACA can sort of target that audience that wants, in-depth sort of the big interviews, and that's the advantage that they have over TT, and that's what I think needs to be played on a little bit more, perhaps, because I love watching Tracy's interviews, and most of the country does.
Absolutely, and it's compelling television. All of the stuff where we've seen her be able to deliver a bit of op-ed or have those one-to-one interviews have all been striking and compelling for the reason, like, that's why we need to have those interviews. I think that's a fair point of difference between the two shows.
And I thought, like, I mean, Tracy is a great journo, and that's what a current affair's about. I mean, that's what the show's about, journalism, and to promote yourself as a celebrity rather than a proficient journo probably isn't the right way to go about it.
As someone who was a student and would have been studying news and current affairs at uni as part of your course, what would have been the biggest difference, reality check, between what you're taught in theory and then the experience on the ground of, we have to produce half an hour of killer current affairs tonight?
Well, I think you don't realise how much effort and time goes into making a story. Sometimes we can be working on things for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. Other times it can happen in a day, and you've got to get a 5-minute story to air that night. Yeah. So it's the pace, it's the attention to detail, it's the research. A lot of time is spent on these sorts of things, securing the best talent for a story. A lot of negotiation involved in terms of trying to talk people around into doing a story when they don't necessarily want to do it. That's the sort of thing that you can't learn at uni, and you're not taught at uni, and that's what's been a massive learning curve for me, especially making the switch from extra to ACA, where as extra, being a sole reporter, been handed a brief and told to go out and do the story and write it. Yep. Obviously lighter, more consumer-driven stories. Yep. Coming to ACA, where we're obviously dealing with bigger issues, bigger topics, and having to use some of those skills that I'd never sort of utilised before.
What's a typical day for an ACA reporter or journalist?
Well, we have a producer that starts at 4:30 of the morning to read through all the newspapers of the day to see what's going on.
Would they start up the mountain, or they start at the...
They start up the mountain at 4:30. Then there's a series of conference calls with the bosses from around the country, and basically your day can involve either perhaps staying in the office and researching stories, setting up interviews, setting up stories, or it can be obviously going out shooting interviews and that sort of thing. So it's generally a long day. When you're doing the 4:30 start, most days you're out by sort of 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Otherwise, it's a general sort of shift, a 9 to sort of 6 or 7 o'clock sort of shift. Obviously, depending on what stories we're doing, it might involve weekends or late night shoots if we're looking at perhaps alcohol issues or doing some hidden camera investigations. It's basically you tailor your day to what you need to get done. Yeah. And if that involves having to jump on a plane at 5:30 in the morning to go up to Cairns to shoot an interview, and coming back on the same day or whatever, then if that's what needs to be done, then that's what we do.
Has digital technology helped in that process?
It has a little bit. Sometimes one of the difficulties, especially when we're travelling, is trying to get vision out these days, because in the past we could just plug our camera into, say, a race course or a footy field, and they'd have links and lines straight back to wherever you wanted. Yep. These days you have to send a lot of stuff over the internet, so that takes a bit more time than just playing out vision like we used to. Local libraries become a massive resource? Yeah, it has. So, I mean, we like to obviously try and use fresh stuff in ACA. I mean, we rarely go and use library vision. But
I was meaning libraries to transfer.
Well, no, most on the road crews have computers and stuff these days that they'll upload stuff. Otherwise, we utilise our affiliates in those cities, the Win offices to
video
hop in there.
Video footage isn't small though. Like they're fairly.
No, it's not. Yeah, they're fairly sizable. So that's what it really comes down to: cutting up the best bits and only sending what you need.
Yeah. I mean, you put together your stuff, and there's certainly a very strong competition between TT and ACA, and even George Nee, the 6:30 Negus show, starting to cut in the same regard. Is there, I mean, from an outsider's point of view, quite often, even the nightly run, how the show plays out, very similar between certainly TT and ACA. Sometimes they're story to story in a similar point of view. Is it, hypothetically speaking, is it as we see on shows like Frontline, where somebody's accidentally faxed the run sheet to the other network, or is it coincidence, or is it they're just the stories and it's showing a sign of excellent journalism by both sides that we're just managing to piece it together in the same way?
Yeah, look, usually it's the stories of the day. Sometimes we'll see a promo pop up for TT, and they'll do the same. They'll see our overnight promo pop up, and we'll aim for a similar story.
Have you guys changed your stories for the day based on seeing their overnight promo?
Not necessarily. I mean, sometimes yes, because obviously they don't decide on. The bosses don't decide on the stories until the morning, or if it's breaking news, obviously until late in the day even. So they generally have an idea of a couple of the stories that are going to be in that night, but everything else is just sort of whatever's going to fit and whatever's going to fit in for the day. But yeah, a lot of the times when the shows are quite similar, you'll find that those are the sort of the big stories of the day, I guess.
Cynical viewers might suggest that there's almost a list of story ideas that seems to get recycled fortnight to fortnight. It's Monday night, it's got to be burger night. It's Wednesday night, what's the latest diet fad? That's a cynical view I appreciate, but we do tend to get some of that repetitive stuff. Is that just appetite of the market?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, people watch certain stories, and if they're gonna rate well, and if it's what people are gonna want to watch, then that's what it's a market-driven program. I mean, not only is it the stories of the day and the topics of the day, what people are talking about, but those are the things people want to see. And when stories pop up time and time again on similar issues, it's obviously because it's driven by the market.
And I guess as an outcome too, EPs and stuff would then be able to get the next day the minute by minutes on the show to be able to say, well, hey, look, this did really well for us, or this presenter, we've seen a trend. Whenever Cossie gets on the screen, the grocery buy demographic goes through the roof. Those sorts of things. So I guess they're able to also shape the show around that, and know that if we deliver these kinds of things on a regular basis, we're going to get some good response out of it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you build a following based on the type of stories you're running, and if those things are working for you, then those people are going to continue to watch.
What do you think is the future of current affairs in Australia?
Look, I'm not too sure, to be honest. I mean, I think it's good that Negus has come on board. It creates a little bit more competition in the 6:30 time slot. I think we'll continue to probably see it going the way it is for a little while yet, because that's what people are wanting to watch at the moment. But it's always developing and evolving. So, I mean, I think we'll continue to probably see a current trend of there's a fair few consumer stories, and also a balance of investigations as well. So I think the production values as well are going to continue to improve. Obviously, better graphics, better edits and stuff like that. A lot more you can do on computers these days to spice up a story a little bit.
Star wipe and fade.
Yeah, that's right.
What's the story that you're most proud of that you've filed to date?
Look, probably I did a bit of an investigation into a job scam where a bloke was basically targeting unemployed people, the desperate job seekers that were looking for work, and he'd get them to pay about $1,000 for uniform costs, and tell them that they'd be starting in a month's time, and then he'd take off with the money. and we estimated that he probably scammed somewhere between sort of $60,000 and $80,000 out of desperate job seekers that couldn't afford to have this money taken off them. And yeah, we tracked him down. I spent about a month trying to track him down and confronted him, and since that there's been sort of a police investigation opened into him. So I think when you can help people out in that sort of situation, you really do feel like you're making a difference in some way. And for for the reputation that sometimes shows like ACA and TT have, the truth of the matter is we do a lot more good than harm. There's genuinely a really good bunch of journos there that care a lot about what they're doing and the people that we're helping out, and we can get results.
When you're handed a story like that, to be fair, this guy's ripping off people, and that's not good. But where do you start? Because this guy will have gone to ground and taken off and tried to resurface under a different name, different model.
Yeah.
How do you go, right, well, I'll just call, bad guys are us, and we'll track him down?
Look, it can be really difficult sometimes, and sometimes you'll hit a dead end and nothing will pop up again on this person for another month or two. But we have a sort of a good bunch of research skills that we can utilise. Lots of different ways of finding people. Other than the phone book, we can do property searches, all this sort of stuff. So you also obviously heavily rely on your contacts. I mean, usually if someone's come to you with a story, they're very passionate about that issue. They want to see someone brought to justice, and they're willing to do pretty much anything they can to help you. Yep. And it's often those contacts that you're relying on that sort of create this network of help to try and track this person down.
There's a really deep there's a real depth of talent that ACA has to draw on just in their on-air and production staff. You look at people like Tom Steinford, Mark Rossi, Brendan Hawkins, drops in from time to time. There's a lot of good people around that get on screen and are able to deliver some good stuff. That doesn't happen overnight. You have to really grow a team to make that happen.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, we've got a lot of sort of a younger sort of talent as well, mixed with some great experienced guys like Chris Allen. I mean, he's one of the best, the best current affairs reporter in the country. I have no doubt about that. He
and Locke did that story last week, I think it was.
Yep.
That story.
How
contemporary and excellent is that? I can't remember the details.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you've got great experience like that, I mean, a lot of the young guys that are coming through are learning a massive amount off these guys. And, I mean, I think it's good that you have some young blood in there too. But certainly, I've still got a long way to go before I could to claim to be a really good, proficient journo like someone like Chris Allen.
Oh, come on, mate! You did a pretty good story about that house on Blunder Road. It's still next to Blunder Road. Yeah. I drive past that house almost every day. And that's part of that local content. It sounds. I'm sort of making a bit of offhanded remark. That's a serious issue. Those people now live next to what will be a 4-lane road, tons of traffic, and the council haven't backed up. So that people do need that opportunity to get in. And where do they come to?
Yeah, exactly.
Apart from the current affairs program.
I mean, a lot of these times, these people had tried desperately talking to council. They'd got in other organisations to try and help them out, lawyers, and it comes to nothing. And then often their last resort is to come to the media, and we stick a camera in the mayor's face, and all of a sudden he backtracks and decides to help them out. So that's when you think, oh wow, we can make a difference, and we certainly do.
Is there a story that you're maybe not so proud of?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, there's obviously stories that that not everyone agrees with, and that you get some negative feedback on. But that's always going to happen, and you come to learn that in this industry. Not everyone's going to like what you do, and not everyone's going to like what you say. But the best thing to try and do is put together a fair and balanced story, as fair and balanced as you can, and realise that some people aren't going to like it, and some people are.
Mark Calvert is head of news and current affairs for Nine. Does he have much say into, I guess down to the with the rubber hitting the road with you guys, does he have much feed into that, or do you get much feedback from him?
Oh yeah, we see Mark every now and then up and about in the office, and he definitely pokes his head in and has a good look, and often shoots around emails saying he saw the story and well done, or he liked this and that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean he's probably more so that's probably out of my sort of level of hierarchy to be having chats to Mark every day, but yeah, definitely he'd be on the phone with Grant Williams, our EP, every day, talking about issues and whatnot.
But do you get a phone call if you've put together a cracking story, hey, good work on that, Cossy, or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean he has been known to send around an email or shoot off or give someone a call. So no, it's nice when you hear that from the bosses. So
and because it's such a tight team up in Brisbane, you guys would have great feedback. Between yourselves, Amanda Patterson, who's I think the bureau chief in Brisbane.
That's right.
Lee Anderson, the news director, and Kylie Blucher, the boss of Night in Queensland.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, news and ACA is a little bit separate. So Lee looks after news, and Amanda looks after ACA in Brisbane.
Do you still talk to each other?
Of course we do. Especially when we're got similar stories on the one night. But yeah, I mean, Kylie in particular has been really good since she came on board as the MD. So she's always really positive with the feedback and that sort of thing. So it's good to hear when when you get a pat on the back.
Yeah, absolutely. So where to from here? I mean, you mentioned you've resigned off in the big unemployed world now.
Yeah, so I've just recently resigned from ACA for I don't know how long. I'm heading to the UK. I would have had a bit of a shave if I hadn't known the camera to come out today. But yeah, heading to the UK to do a bit of travel and set myself up as a freelancer over there. And hopefully do a bit of stuff with Nine over there and perhaps whatever I can find, BBC, CNN. Sky News. I don't really have any set plans at the moment, but I come to a point in my life where I want to do a bit of travel and try and do a bit of reporting overseas. So hopefully I'll be back at Nine. I can fully admit I'm a Nine man. I really enjoy the organisation. I've grown up watching Channel 9 and it's always somewhere I wanted to work, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to do that. So I hope there's some opportunities for me there when I return.
It'll be an excellent opportunity for you to get some wider experience. I mean, Australia's a great domestic product as far as news and current affairs goes, but when you drop into a place like London, where Europe is just across the ditch, and some major networks, international news networks, base themselves in the UK or have got big offices in the UK, that would be some great opportunity for someone like you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive appeal. I mean, coming from a national program, we get to do a lot of great stuff and a lot of travel domestically around Australia, but there's not a massive focus on international news and current affairs. So to be able to go and throw my hat in the ring over somewhere like London, where there's obviously massive news happening over in Europe and in that particular area, and the best news organisations in the world are over there. It's something I've always wanted to do, and I felt like this was the best time to do it.
Absolutely. Andrew Koss, thank you so much.
No worries, Molksy. Cheers.
Cheers, mate. It was at this point that I took the opportunity to ask Andrew a question about an incident that happened at the Channel 9 Christmas party last year. As you can see, he didn't take it very well. Well, thanks for that, Cossy.
No worries, Molks.
Actually, just before we wrap up, I've got one more question for you. I've done some research, and I found out last year at the Christmas party, you may have got a little bit happy, and your behaviour might have been inappropriate. You might have embarrassed yourself. How do you respond?
I don't know what where you've got this information from, Molks, but this isn't a sort of a line of questioning I want to go down.
Well, Cossy, my research, my sources are solid. They reliably inform me that your behaviour was a little bit unbecoming.
No, this is if we're going to continue down this line, I'm going to cut it off.
Mate, are you afraid? Have you?
No, Molks. This wasn't on the list of questions, so let's just cut it there, okay?
No,
that's it, Molks. No, I'm done. This is inappropriate questioning. That's what that is.
Oh, come on, mate. No, seriously. What's Cossy? So come on, Cossy.
Molksy,
mate, really? There's nothing to be afraid of.
Enough, okay?
Cossy, mate, seriously.
No comment.
What's going on?
No comment, Molks.
Come on, mate. Look, you can't hide forever. People need to understand that, you've got... What are you doing here?
Molksy, no comment.
Really?
Comment.
Andrew,
Sorry.
listen, mate. There's nothing. We know where you work or where you used to work. We'll go and we'll ask people, mate. Seriously, hey, excuse me. Come on, mate. You can't get out. What are you trying to do?
Close the door, Molks. Close the door.
Mate, seriously, far out. Look, Andrew, what are you doing? Come, mate.